Hello once again. This is Behind the Mic. I'm Gary Laubach along with Mike Joseph as we are looking ahead to Ivy League opponents in the next couple of weeks. Penn this week at Lafayette and next week at Princeton. So it doesn't get any easier as the Lafayette Leopards come in at 0-4, coming off a loss to Albany. And I want to talk a little bit about that game before we get to the Penn matchup. There are some positives, I think, that came out of the Albany game. We obviously did not play well, but we've got some freshmen and sophomores that are playing pretty well. Damon Robinson, 14 tackles in that ball game, Mike, and Marco Olivas, a sophomore, 12 tackles. Those are young guys that are going to be around now for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, John's getting a lot of these freshmen in the mix, and they're obviously playing well. They're making their own mistakes, obviously costing some things, but a lot of times the more freshmen you play, the more mistakes you're going to have. But these kids seem to be picking up right away and playing well. The linebackers are playing well offensively. Joe Gillette, obviously Keegan's playing very well. There's a lot of freshmen getting a lot of experience, and I think that can only help when you get into Patriot League play.
So with that said, do you give some credit now to who John has been able to bring in terms of recruiting, and maybe the future is a little bit brighter than most people think it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough look at the entire league. I mean, the league is 4-20 out of conference. Okay, teams like Lafayette, Lehigh, and Colgate, the three teams that have won the most Patriot League championships in the history of the Patriot League, are all at the bottom. So this goes beyond Lafayette. Okay, we won't even go there. Another subject. But at the same time, I think you're right. I think that the kids that John had brought in last year and this year, his first two full recruiting classes, have been outstanding. You can see the talent level. You can see the speed. You can see the way these kids are brought in, how well they're coached coming out of high school. Keegan Shoemaker can't play quarterback unless he's well coached at Prosper, Texas. Same thing with Marco. Same thing with obviously John Gay. Look at John Gay. So there are a lot of freshmen playing. I think things are only looking positive. I know everybody out there says, well, we're 0-4, but you got to watch the games. You got to see how well Lafayette offensively is moving the ball. Struggling in the secondary, that's disappointing to me.
You lead me right into what I was going to talk about next. You obviously don't lose a game 36-7 and not have negatives. There were plenty of them. The 98-yard return to start the ball game, that just demoralizes you immediately. 22-0 at half. The secondary didn't really play very well. Our receivers sometimes wide open. Their receivers wide open, 226 yards in the air, over 400 yards given up. But we are also allowing so many sacks this year that just didn't happen last year. I think we're up to 18 now for the season.
Yeah, it's just far too many. You've got to keep the quarterback upright, and we're becoming one-dimensional. So when you get into those 3rd and 8+ situations, guys put their ears back and they go after the quarterback. You've got to run the ball effectively, especially in the red zone. You have to do that, and if you don't do that, you're going to struggle. So we're putting ourselves in situations where sacks are going to occur. And then we're having one good play, a 15, 20-yard run by J.J. Younger, and then a 6-yard loss on a running play or a penalty. So these things just can't happen. The secondary is really it's upsetting to me, the fact that I know that obviously we don't have Greenhill up front, and we don't have Grayson, and we don't have Breedlove, and some of the guys we had last year, but other guys have to step up. So we talked about the freshmen playing well. I think it's time for some of these upperclassmen to play a little bit better.
I don't disagree at all with that, and now we take on maybe one of the toughest opponents we've seen all year in Penn. Ray Priori brings his ball club in. 5 years now as the head coach, 33 years at Penn, so he certainly knows everything there is to know about playing Lafayette. We really, though, have not played them since 2013, and we fared fairly well when we did play them back in that era. We won 5 of 7 back then. But coming in, this is an outstanding team. Lost the heartbreaker by 1, went for 2 at the end of the ball game, lost 28-27 to number 20, Delaware. It's a team loaded. They've got two outstanding running backs. We need to find a way to stop them.
Yeah, absolutely. On Inside the Huddle this week, I'm going to talk about gap integrity. If you don't keep people in front of these two running backs, okay, so Carrick and Brooks and Isaiah Malcolm, they're going to run wild. They had over 100. I know Brooks had 158 yards by himself, a punt return for 69 yards to get close, to get within 1 point by Malcolm. These guys are electric. They are the two best tandem running backs we're going to see, I think, so far. We've seen so far. If you don't create a wall in front of them defensively and not let them get their shoulders, you hear me talk about getting your shoulders square, cutting back. This defensive line has to play the best game for Lafayette that they've played all season. They need to keep these guys running on the perimeter, not going downhill. These two guys are electric.
They have a great player on the defensive backfield. Mohamed Jakite is back there. He had 11 tackles in the first ball game. This is a pretty solid defense, but it is a defense that gave up 260 yards in the air, and that may very well be the only way we're going to get yardage.
Yeah, a great segue to what I'd really like to bring up is the fact that I think Lafayette's got to work outside in. This is a very good defensive line. I think they're going to have to throw the ball in the flats. Get the ball out. Take what the defense gives them. If the corners are going to pedal, you're going to get a 3-deep shell, or the corners are going to give ground. Take the outs all day, set it up. At the end of the game, Delaware hit an out and up. So those are ways to work the ball. But I think Lafayette, again, the quick game outside to Pearson, to Gillette, to some of these other guys. You got to get the ball outside first, and then let them spread it out, get their safeties back in on the hashes, get their linebackers a little wider, then kind of crease them inside.
You can learn a little more if you go inside the huddle with Mike Joseph every single week. It's a great segment. We hope you can join us. If you can't get here to Fisher Stadium, tune in at 3:30 on the Lafayette Sports Network. We'll be there to bring you the ball game. That's Behind the Mic for this week.